as you guys can notice, if you're watching, if you're listening, you're gonna be missing a voice today. It's three and a possible, but for all of our Spades players out there, sometimes you got an ace, sometimes nobody's got that suit, and they just have to cut that ace right away. So we're missing it. We had an ace. We thought it was for sure gonna walk. It's not walking today. So we only got two. We only got two, but it's all good. It's all good. We wanted to get an episode in before round two of the playoffs started. So we are recording this Saturday, about an hour before the 70s, or not the 76ers, but the Bucks and the Nets series gets going. Had to get one in before that one because that's going to be
fun.
That's going to be a crazy series. I think a lot of people would probably agree at this point. Probably the two best teams remaining in the playoffs altogether. I don't know if you would agree with that, Joe, but it's
you're
up
probably
there.
right
It's
on
up
that.
there, especially in terms of just talent on teams.
Talent-wise,
They definitely
yes.
there's definitely the most
Agreed.
talent left there. All right, so before we get into the playoffs, Joe, I didn't even warn you about this question, but
It's all good.
It's been bothering me, so I'm going to ask you.
I think I know what it's about.
Were the 2020 Lakers bubble frauds? Were they just a bubble fraud team? I have to, as a Heat fan, I have to know because I heard after the Heat got swept by the Bucks this year, all I've heard is that the Heat were just bubble frauds. All they could do was win in the bubble. But now that their opponent in the finals also got bounced in round one, I have to know because I feel like it's only fair if the Heat were bubble frauds, the Lakers should be bubble frauds as well. Obviously, I think both of those statements are complete bullshit. But Joe, I want to know your answer to this.
Hey, I don't know. The Miami Heat kind of look like they were bubble frauds just a little bit. Those young talent didn't really show up in the playoffs this year. It wasn't really like an AAU tournament this year in the playoffs like it was last year. That's all I'm saying. But the Lakers, it's not the same team. You don't have Rondo. You don't have JaVale McGee. You don't have Dwight Howard. And they were also injured. I think you got to put in the injuries. I know everybody this year, but I mean, you got to put it in there. I think it matters.
And so I have a response to that because the Heat obviously don't have the exact same team. Like they're I think honestly they have a little more consistency than the Lakers did last year, but no Jay Crowder, who was a starter for them in their playoffs run. That was a big loss. No Kelly Olynyk, who was a big rotational player. And everyone does keep citing the injuries for the Lakers. And I guess everyone in the sports world just forgot that the Miami Heat traded for Victor Oladipo and was really counting on him to be part of the big playoff run. Yeah, I know, because he only ended up playing 4 games for the Heat. But I don't know. That's a pretty big injury when your third or second best player, depending on which Bam shows up, is missing. So,
but I think the NBA world really didn't expect much from Oladipo. That's why they got him for cheap. No one was expecting anything from him.
Well, I think the issue was he was in a contract year, so there was no guarantee that you were going to have him the next year. He does have a little injury history. But I mean, he was hooping in Houston. I forget how many exact games it was before, and he was averaging 25, 6 and 6. I mean, whatever. We've seen Oladipo hoop.
He can hoop.
When healthy, he's a bona fide hooper. Right,
and
he wouldn't have been on the Heat. So I think it was going to be a great fit had he been able to stay healthy. And I obviously hope he recovers well because it's sounding like he might even miss all of next year with this injury. It's very similar to the injury that Kawhi had, where it's technically the quad, but it's right at a tendon right above the knee. So hope
one day it feels good,
speedy
and
recovery.
You wake up and it's just straight tight. Yeah.
So speedy recovery for him. Hopefully that's all good. Hopefully no nerve damage or anything. But I just want to get that question out there because I hate that. Only my team. The bubble fraud bullshit. I think it's really stupid because the Heat that in 2020 had no issues beating the good teams all year. They
had a rough year for real though. They had a long year. Injuries and COVID.
Both thing for the Lakers and the Heat, and even though I don't like them, like the Celtics, you could really tell that the shorter offseason and condensed schedule all kind of combined together to really hurt those teams. A lot of guys getting hurt. Then you had COVID issues on all those teams. It was just a mess for them. But whatever. I'm still excited to watch the rest of the playoffs. So let's dig into it. We got Game 7 tomorrow. Clippers versus Mavs. You guys obviously already know where we stand. We made our picks. I said Clippers in 7. Joe had Dallas in 7, so I don't think either one of us is
Jeez. I guess I
gonna.
gotta stick with it.
Yeah,
I'm a
we're
little
gonna.
nervous about it, but I'm gonna stick with it.
Yeah, so we'll stick with our picks. Devion had Dallas in 6, so we know where everybody stands there. So let's talk about round 2 because we didn't do any discussion on further rounds. We didn't pick an overall winner. We didn't do any of that before the round 1. Thank goodness for you.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just get into it. We'll save the big one for last. Let's start with 76ers and Hawks. Hawks really surprised me. The Hawks were the biggest surprise to me out of all the teams in the playoffs,
Mhm.
I think. And yeah, I think that was obviously the biggest surprise. I really thought Trae Young would struggle because of how the game is officiated differently, and he just very brilliantly adjusted his play. I was really impressed with Trae Young. Very disappointed in Julius Randle, who just did not show up at all in their series. So, and now we got the 76ers, and Embiid's got a little tear in his meniscus. It's just like it's always something with Embiid. You know, you feel bad for him a little bit. But and it kind of gets to one of the things that you always talk with Embiid, like stop doing all the extra stuff, the extra falling and flopping.
Too big to fall.
He puts his body at risk instead of really trying to have a good base. So how do you see that series going? Do you think the Hawks can push them at all, or do you think with or without Joel Embiid, the 76ers are just going to kind of handle them?
I think the Hawks just had a good matchup in the first round. I just knew it was too much offense for the Knicks. The Knicks have good defense, but they couldn't hold up with the points. They just had no offensive ability outside of Julius Randle. This matchup is
once Randle was gone, they didn't really have anything else they could go to. Derrick Rose was awesome, but you don't really want Derrick Rose having to play 40 minutes. Mm-hmm. That's not successful.
I don't think those ancillary pieces around Trae Young play as well as they get it against the Knicks, because the 76ers have some guys out there who can play some defense, and I don't think the Hawks are going to be making those shots that they made against the Knicks. The 76ers are just too big, too strong, and they got some defense, man. That defense is something else. I don't know. Ben Simmons is going to be huge. If he's guarding Trae Young, is Trae Young going to be able to handle that size? Is he going to be able to get to the paint and drive to the paint like he always wants to dish it out? Or is he going to be at that three-point line forced to shoot threes all the time? But if you're out there on the three-point line, is Ben Simmons going to be playing you as soon as you get to half court? Those are going to be some hard threes to shoot over a 6'9" guy that's guarding you the whole game. So I think that's where the matchup really is going to be key at. I'm taking the 76ers in 6.
Okay, so you got Philly in 6.
Yeah, and that's only because of Joel Embiid. I don't know about his injury. Mm-hmm. You never know.
See, it's such a tricky spot for them because you know his history. It's like one of those things that you never know when you're going to have a real shot to go to the finals. So you never want to just punt on a season, especially when you got the 1 seed. But I feel like you're putting a significant portion of his career in jeopardy if you push him to play.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously I'm no doctor, so leave all that analysis up to the doctors, but I would not risk his future just for this series. And honestly, I think they would still win without Joel Embiid.
You're saying if you're Doc Rivers, you're telling your team, hey guys, let's try to get a good early lead so we can rest some of our guys. We gotta get Joel Embiid on the bench. Let's only have him play 31 minutes if we can.
I don't think I would play him. Like I think I would literally just bench him.
If you're up 3-0, don't play him in Game 4. Or you just don't play him at all in the series and see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, like they're still way more talented than they are.
See how Game 1 goes. You're at home.
Yeah, if you can win the series without him and like give that knee some more time to heal up. I mean, because I don't know how bad the tear is. Because it doesn't sound like it's MCL. It sounds like it's just meniscus, which I think those can heal if it's not anything serious. I think those can heal with just rest. I don't think it's anything that needs surgery or anything.
He'll be a liability though, because the Hawks like to run. I don't know. You don't want him running on that knee like that up and down the court.
You have him. I mean, you just never know. Like you could jump up and land on somebody weird. Like there's so many things that can go wrong when you've got a big man with a lower body injury. It's just a lot of
Yeah.
things can go wrong.
It could be an AD situation. AD was already dealing with Achilles injury, so he was compensating and he hurt his groin. You don't want that to happen with Joel Embiid.
No, you don't. I like, to me, with or without Joel Embiid, and maybe I'm just not giving the Hawks enough respect. But because I said Knicks in 5, I'm going to go Philly in 5. I think a lot of the things you said are going to be important. They've got a lot of really good perimeter defenders that they can throw at Trae Young. And, I don't think they'll start Ben Simmons on him. I think that'd be kind of a waste. And especially with Joel Embiid battling injuries, I think you can't really afford to lose Ben Simmons too. Like, I know he's not going to dominate a game like Joel Embiid will, but he's still a very good facilitator and can make the ancillary players much better. So you don't want to, because Trae Young, he's going to try and get some of those fouls, and depending on how it's refereed, that could get him in foul trouble early. Throw Thibault at him, let Thibault have his turn, and then if you need to stop Trae Young from scoring, then maybe go throw Ben Simmons at him and bother him with his length. So, and Doc Rivers is obviously much smarter than you or I are, so I'm sure he's got a great game plan with all of his good perimeter defenders, and even the George Hill he can throw at him from time to time. So, I think Philly's got just too much. Hawks, not enough. And we were talking before the show about what were we talking about? Might have been the Knicks, where they just don't really have – they don't have another guy.
Yeah.
Another guy. Like, once Randall was stopped, they were done.
Who you got?
Then the Hawks are similar, I think. Like, once Trae Young is stopped, like, Cam Reddish hasn't really turned into that at this point. Kevin Huerter's a nice player. John Collins is a nice player to play off of somebody, but no one that you can really just throw the ball to and say, okay, go get me a bucket. Lou Will when he jumps in the game, but he's coming off your bench.
Bogdanovich actually played well, but
you're not going to like throw it to him. Yeah, they can run offense, but
Gallinari, you're really good. Yeah, that really is their second best option for somebody to get their own shot, who can create their own shot.
Yeah, I'd probably lean Lou Will, but
but he's off the bench. Yeah.
So I'm going to go Philly in 5, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was Philly in 6, like you said, if they just got hot and stole an extra game. All right, let's talk Suns and Nuggets. I know the Suns are a little bit of a sore subject for you. D-Book kind of showed us that, he can still give you buckets in the postseason as well. Will be interesting to monitor CP3's shoulder. Because that first game when he hurt it, like that was,
you could tell. Yeah.
He couldn't even dribble. Like he kept just like losing with his dominant hand. His right hand kept losing the basketball. So I don't know what's going to go on there. Nuggets are obviously still missing Jamal Murray. Won't have him the whole series, but Michael Porter Jr. in the Nuggets wins really stepped up and played well, and their losses was pretty awful. So he seems like the natural X factor of that series. What do you make of this series? Can the Nuggets push them? Do the Suns take it? What do you think?
I'm taking the Suns, and I'm taking the Suns in 7. I think the Suns will pull this one out. I think if they can play how they played against the Lakers, if DeAndre Ayton can play how he played, then I think they have a good chance. I know Jokic is the man now. He's the truth. You're not going to be able to stop him. At least you got a big body there that can at least do a little bit of work with him. And I just like what Chris Paul has got. He makes sure they're always in the right spot. And I didn't really think he was going to be able to have them handle that pressure of the Lakers coming in town. I know the Lakers were a little injured, but the Suns didn't look like they were scared of them not one time. Even when the Lakers had that one game and they were laughing and joking and having fun. Mm-hmm. Suns still looked like they were ready to give it to them. So I was just surprised at their temperament and the way they played. I'm sticking with the Suns.
I mean, I've been on the Suns bandwagon for a while now.
They had to show it to me first, and they did. They proved it.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to stick with the Suns as well. I love Jokic. He's the MVP in my opinion. But here's like they just played Portland, right? And we talked about that series beforehand. My big thing was like, man, I was close to picking Portland because like, damn, they're going to really exploit Jokic. But then, the thing that didn't allow me to pick Portland was, yeah, but they can't stop anybody either. Not the case with the Suns. The Suns are going to lock their ass up. So Booker and Chris Paul are going to exploit the hell out of Jokic defensively. And then when the Suns are on defense, Michael Porter Jr.,
locked in.
put him in jail, put him in cuffs. They're not going to let him get off like that. The Portland had no one to throw at him. Norman Powell, good try, but he's got like 6 inches on you. The Suns are going to be able to throw some legitimately really good defenders at him. Jay Crowder can go get him. Bridges can go get him. Cam Johnson can go get. Like, they got a lot of people to throw at their perimeter players. I don't see it happening. I got Suns. I'll give the Nuggets credit. I'll go Suns in 6.
And give them some credit. I had to give MVP 5. A little bit more credit than that.
I wanted to say in 5, but I'm gonna go 6.
That'd be impressive.
So, but let's stay on this series a little while, because this series is really intriguing to me. Jay Crowder, because you talked about how Chris Paul has kind of given them this confidence.
Mm-hmm.
I like the edge that Jay Crowder gives them. Jay Crowder does not give a fuck about anybody on the other team. Like, he don't care. He'll go guard Anthony Davis at 6'10", 6'11". He'll go get LeBron. Like, he was willing to go tackle whatever defensive assignment they had. And like, I just think when you have a player like that, I can just imagine, like, back in my very pedestrian playing days, like, you have somebody like that, it's hard not to get fired up and try and emulate them, and match their energy.
You talking about me?
No comment.
I agree with you. I know exactly what you're saying, man. I just don't pass him the ball towards the end of the game, because he's not going to make a 3 unless you guys already have the lead.
Yeah, Jay Crowder's one of those super streaky players. Like,
yeah, exactly.
If you've seen a couple go in, all right, here you go, Jay.
Exactly.
If he's missed like 3 or 4,
just play defense today, man.
Just D-up, check out. Because he hurt my Heat a lot in last year's finals against your Lakers. He was awesome in every other round before that, but man, when it came to the finals, he was bricking, and he was still going to throw him up there. But it's all good. I like Jay Crowder a lot. I like what he brings to a team. But you know who I thought had a very underrated but good series against your Lakers was Saric. I thought he gave them not a ton of minutes, but whenever he was in there, he's a very smart player. He's obviously not the greatest defender, but offensively he's a good passer. He can make the outside shot, and thank God for him.
Right.
They finally started falling again in that series. But I think he's going to be a nice little player to have against the Nuggets, because he's going to be able to help space the floor and keep. I feel like they'll probably match him up a little bit with JaVale McGee when they put McGee in, and kind of try and draw McGee out from away from the rim, so those other guys can still attack.
That's a good point. Yeah, and you look at the Suns; they really can go 8-9 deep on their bench. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of teams can do that in the playoffs coming down the stretch.
Well, and what's really good about the way they're set up too is that they don't necessarily need to play all 8 or 9. But those 8 or 9 that they have give them so much flexibility in with how they want to play. Oh, you're playing like this. You're affecting the game this way. Counter with this.
Exactly.
And they can play the same 7 or 8 people and usually have a pretty good counter punch to whatever you're doing.
That was the Lakers' problem.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't put Harrell out there. I don't know why people keep going at Frank Vogel for not playing Harrell, but you can't play him. He can't play defense, and he's undersized. You can't play him in the series. I mean, you can give him a few minutes for offense, but if you're losing the whole time, you need some defense.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the Suns Lakers a little bit too, because I want to know your thoughts on that game or that series. Like, what did you think? Like the issue was, because my biggest takeaway was the Lakers kept trying to stay true to their identity of, okay, we're a really good defensive team, and that's what we're going to do. My issue was the Suns didn't get the memo that the Lakers were a good defensive team and were lighting y'all up. Mm-hmm. So at some point, and I think that's what Vogel tried to do in Game 6, but with AD being hurt, it wasn't going to matter. Put your best offensive unit out there and just try and match them. At the end of the day, you have LeBron James. That's the ultimate trump card. Like, that is it. Like, that is go. Just do whatever's going to make him offensively at his best and try and match Phoenix that way. Because what was the score at the end of the first quarter? Like 42-14 or something?
Yeah, it was terrible. Yes, it was something. Yeah,
30 to
32,
14. Yeah, like
something
it
like that.
was like at some point, like, yeah, because I had the same issue with the Heat against the Bucks. So it was like, all right, guys, the issue is not necessarily defense. You
Man,
can't score.
exactly.
Get some people out there that can
Man,
score.
should have did exactly what when he was with Cleveland and he had Dellavedova against Golden State. We're just gonna put some shooters around him and pick and roll. They're gonna suck in and he's gonna dish out. Y'all better make shots or not. LeBron's just gonna go to the hole, get fouled, get an and one or something. But we're not gonna keep. You can't keep going out there and posting up with Andre Drummond trying to slow the game down because it just messed the whole thing up. Because Ayton was balling out there. Ayton was playing some defense. Nobody had an answer for him. So they had nothing in the paint. And so, which sucked. One was making shots on the outside. So I think LeBron did the shit. My team ain't playing good. I don't care no more. I swear, it looked like that. Really looked like that. Like, man,
It
I'm
looked
doing
like
everything I
LeBron was
can, and these boys gave me
begging
11
them.
points.
He was
11
begging them
points!
to do something. He's like,
Something.
guys, if we're going to win, you guys have to do it. So it seemed very intentional. And we talked before the show. I said Jimmy Butler, I think, did kind of the same thing. It was like being very intentional about trying to get the other guys going first. No, like, look, when shit really gets tight, I know I can go out there and go get a bucket. I need the rest of the guys to come with me. I can't carry you for 48 minutes, but I can carry you for the last 10. But I need y'all to get going, and they just never got going.
And he's 37. I don't understand why people don't realize
bad
that.
ankle. I was a very big LeBron fan for a long time, and then it really messed when he came to the Heat. And so, like, I know what he looks like when he's healthy and like at full strength. Even just as of like last year, that was not LeBron James in this playoffs. It wasn't.
No,
like he doesn't deserve an extra excuse. A lot of people are playing hurt, whatever. I get it. I'm not trying to say like, oh, poor LeBron James. I'm just saying like, when he's hampered like that, other guys got to do something, and no one could. Schroeder was terrible. I think a lot of that probably had to do with him getting COVID right at the end of the season. Yeah, we've seen how that's affected athletes now in multiple sports, including basketball. Like that, it's affected them. So he just didn't. He didn't. I hate the like, oh, LeBron didn't have enough help, even though he's got this, and that. At the end of the day, watch the game. Who helped him?
Nobody. Exactly. And then people expect him to play like he did against the Celtics back in the day when he scored 24 of the last 25 points. Or that was the Pistons. It's not going to happen. It's not. He can't do it.
He is not 25 anymore.
Well, it's not happening. I know he's great, but and then it does. I don't think it affects his legacy. Come on, man.
No.
Yeah, come on.
No.
Jordan lost in the first round too. And it wasn't in his 14th year in the league. 17th year in the league.
I mean, we can do the Jordan LeBron thing another day, but yeah, LeBron James' legacy is already pretty much cemented.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. He is either, if you're being rational, he is either your first or second best player of all time. I'll give you third if you want to throw like Kareem in there.
Man.
He's no lower than that. If you're going to be a rational person.
And he still averaged, 19, 7, and 8? Like, hurt. Come on.
Yeah, like, people are trying to equate this to, like, when he was his first year in Miami against the Mavericks in the finals.
Oh, yeah,
he was not that bad. He was not that bad. And But whatever. That people, you know how certain people have their preferences, and the super Jordan fans always, they get super excited when LeBron James doesn't succeed to the ultimate level. So whatever. And another thing I think is really funny, because people have tried to label his championship last year like with an asterisk because of the bubble. I would argue this season is way more fraudulent than last season, with all of the different factors. People actually getting COVID. No one got COVID for the NBA last year except for Gobert and Donovan Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
Like at the very onset, but then they had 3 months off, and once they got to the bubble, everyone was healthy. Like everyone was as healthy as possible. this year everyone's been either getting COVID, getting hurt, all the condensed schedule. Like this season has favored younger, fresher teams so much more than any other season. So this one's much more fraudulent to me than last year. In my
I
eyes,
like that.
they are both very real, and like I'm not gonna put an asterisk by either of them. But
I
I'm
don't
just
think
saying if
history
you had to
will
pick
either.
one, yeah, if you had to pick
Yeah,
one, like
I agree with
this
that.
is the more screwed up one. But
I don't even think history will even put an asterisk by it. It'd be
no,
like it was the COVID year and they played in the bubble. That's it.
yeah, the only thing history says like, oh wow, I can't believe the players had to go to a bubble
Right.
to play a series. Like that's what it's going to be talked about, like the extreme circumstances the players were under. Not that it was like an invalidated championship or anything, but whatever. All right, let's move on to the
Nitty gritty.
most intense series I think of the second round. I think it's probably going to be the best matchup that we'll have in the entire playoffs. Now that we've had the Lakers eliminated, you know,
Mm-hmm.
no LeBron AD, so this is probably going to be the most collection of talent in a single series that will have the entire playoffs. When you got, for the Nets, you got KD, James Harden, Kyrie Irving. For the Bucks, you got Giannis, Chris Middleton, and Drew Holiday. It's going to be a
Man,
battle.
you better throw Joe Harris in there.
I'm throwing Blake Griffin in before I throw in some damn Joe Harris.
Are you serious? Joe Harris is the fourth option, buddy. You better throw Joe Harris.
No, he's not an option. See, okay, let's talk about this for a second, because this is a pet peeve of mine when people talk about options on a team, right? Like Ray Allen was an option because you
Yes, sir.
could throw Ray Allen the ball and he could go get a bucket. You cannot throw Joe Harris the fucking
No, you
basketball and
can't.
ask him to go get a bucket.
No, you can't.
He is strictly playing off of others. He's not an option. He's just a role player,
He's a
which is
last
fine.
resort.
Not even a last resort. Like you will run
He's open.
plays to get him an open
Yeah.
three, but he's not an option.
Okay, I'll
Like
feel you on that.
an option is a LeBron James. An option is an Anthony Davis.
I'll give you that. Go get me a bucket. We need a bucket.
The Nets got three options. The Bucks got three options in terms of people that they can just give the ball to
Yeah, I
and
guess.
say, go get a bucket. Maybe you could, I mean, back in his day, at least, Blake Griffin. I don't know about this version of Blake Griffin, but he's an option. Like another good example of a really good player, but it was never an option. Another current net, DeAndre Jordan, right? He averaged a good amount of points for a season, for some seasons with the Clippers. He wasn't an option.
Yeah, an option. Not an option, no.
All right. Glad we could have that conversation. One of the random things that just bothers Will when he's looking on Twitter is like, oh, is so and so the third option? Who's the third option on the Heat? I don't know if we had three. I don't know if we had three options this year.
It was supposed to be Tyler Hero.
I mean, I guess he was, or Dragic. They had three options. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Back to the series. Bucks and Nets. First, tell me, who do you think is the most important player of the series in terms of their success will most greatly influence the game? Obviously, like a Kevin Durant and Giannis are the two best players, but you have a pretty good idea of their range and what they're going to do and how they're going to impact the series. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the best player for each team. I'm saying, which players' play do you think will influence the game the most, or the series the most?
Ooh, I'm going with Chris Middleton. I'm taking Chris. Okay. I like Chris Middleton because I mean he's not consistent all the time in the playoffs. He is in the regular season, but in the playoffs sometimes his butt gets a little tight and he starts bricking some shots and he disappears. And I think that's going to be key. I have faith in what he's going to do. And I know what Drew Holiday's going to do. He may not have a great offensive night some nights, but I know he's going to be able to help out on James Harden or Kyrie Irving. So I know he's going to do something on defense.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Middleton, I don't know if he's going to show up on defense. Sometimes, I mean, he gets his hand on the ball a lot sometimes when he's trying, but defensively, he's not really there. And then offensively, if it's not going in early, he disappears. So Chris Middleton, I think, is key.
All right. My person is going to be James Harden. I think James Harden's going to be the difference maker for the Nets. And I'll tell you why. James Harden's play is, because he's going to have the ball in his hands a lot, how he plays is really going to determine, I think, the success of the Nets. If James Harden. So what I'm interested to see, if the games are very close and like things start going badly, say the Bucks, say the Bucks make a good run in the third quarter, early fourth quarter, something like that. Does James Harden revert to Houston James Harden, where he holds the ball a long time and just starts trying to create, with ISO? Or does he continue to still try? Because he's done a fantastic job this year getting people involved. I still think it's a lot of ISO and it's not the best offense, but I think with the players that they have out there, I think the role players have had a pretty good idea of when James Harden's going to get them the ball. So, and to me, that's very important.
Yeah.
Being able to expect shots versus, I don't know, like whenever he decides. Like he's almost been pass first with the Nets versus being score first, like he was in Houston, where he's like, all right, I'm going to try and score, can't score, okay, pass. He hasn't really done that. He's been very intentional about being pass first. So if he can continue to do that, I think the Nets have a good chance. If he goes back to score first, I think the Nets are over with, because that's going to be way too easy for the Bucks to defend.
But then I think that's when you got to put it on Steve Nash. Get the ball out of James Harden's hand. You have other options who can control the offense. If you see him start doing that, just try to get the ball out of his hands for a couple plays. Get him some easy shots and don't let him just dribble. I think that's what's going to be key. Steve Nash can be able to control that too.
Yeah, that's obviously very important, and Steve Nash deserves. That's his job.
But he hasn't really had
the issue that I have
yet, though.
So when you had the Nets before the Harden trade, you had a lot of other options that could do that. That could kind of be more facilitate offense. Kyrie Irving, I love Kyrie. Like, I love Kyrie Irving, love his game. Kyrie Irving's never really been great at that.
No,
Kyrie Irving is he's a good, he's not a bad passer by any means, but Kyrie Irving's looking to score the basketball when he's got it in his hands. Spencer Dinwiddie's not there. He's hurt. Like, that was their other kind of option to do that.
Good point.
Who's going to do that for them if it's not James Harden? That's why I think he's so important. I don't like KD. No. Now KD can be the ultimate cheat code and just get hot and be unstoppable, which, if you're the Nets, you have no problem with that. But
yeah. And it's possible.
That's what I think is going to be important. I'm going to be interested to see how the Bucks match up with the Nets early, because so many of their players, all their big three, are all very streaky. Kevin Durant is the most consistent, where it's like, okay, even if he misses 5 in a row, you're kind of like, whatever, he'll make the next one. I don't know that I feel that way with Kyrie Irving and James Harden. Kyrie can get to the rack and get a layup to maybe get himself out of it, but and same thing with James Harden, obviously. But in terms of their shots,
he has the 6 for 19 nights a lot.
Yeah, so does James Harden. So it's like, I don't know. So do they throw Drew Holiday and risk fouls on James Harden initially, or do they start him on Kyrie and try and make it like a two-headed monster of James Harden and Chris Middleton? How they defend them is going to be really interesting, because what they were able to do against the Heat was, Giannis, get Jimmy, Brook Lopez, guard Bam. Bam decided he wasn't going to even try to score, and so Brook Lopez literally just camped under the rim. You can't really do that against Brooklyn.
What do you do if they put KD at the 5? They put Blake Griffin
at that point. They take Brook Lopez out the game.
Yeah, exactly. Where is he going to play though? If they put Blake Griffin at the 5,
put Blake in, they'll put Brook on Blake.
But he's still going to space the floor. Blake's not really on the post.
No, fuck that. If they put Blake Griffin out there, all right. If Blake Griffin's going to beat me from 3-point land,
let it happen.
Let it happen. let that happen.
Hey man, he's been playing a little good. He's
No,
been decent.
he's a really like improved 3-point shooter, especially from like when if you think about the first season Blake Griffin played, he could barely shoot outside of like 10 feet,
Yeah.
and now he's like an okay 3-point shooter.
You
So
gotta respect it. You gotta respect it.
yeah, but I mean, if I'm Milwaukee,
Keep him.
I'll late close out to Blake Griffin all day versus Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Kevin Durant. So that'll be interesting. Now, I know they got the Bucks got some bad news. I think DiVincenzo's out for the season, the rest of the playoffs.
That sucks.
He was a good defender that they could throw at people.
The white Michael Jordan, man.
Stop it.
That's what they call him in Connecticut. The white Michael Jordan. Yeah, that's what they call him in Connecticut. You didn't know that, did you?
No, and
white man can't jump. Boy got hops.
I'm kind of disappointed that you told me that, but no, I mean he's got some ups for sure. So yeah, I really want to see how they start out defending Brooklyn. Drew Holiday is going to be also super important, but his for me his output is going to be very consistent. I know what to expect from him.
Mm-hmm.
We don't always know what to expect from James Harden. So, all right, let's get down to the picks then. Joe.
Oh, I didn't make a pick yet. Oh, man. Oh, this is tough.
So now tell me, you say Middleton's going to be the most important. Does he do enough for the Bucks to win, or are you sticking with kind of your vibe that you've been having on the show? Never going to go to the finals.
I'm taking Brooklyn. I'm taking Brooklyn in 7. I think it's going to be a tough series because there's going to be. I think it's going to be a lot. I know I've been saying it this whole time that it's going to be an offensive year and defense is not going to matter that much in the East. And I still believe that. That's the only reason I think it's going to go 7 games. Defense is going to matter a little bit, but at the end of the day, Brooklyn's just way too much offense. Like, you can eliminate one guy, but you can eliminate 2 guys, but you're not going to be able to eliminate all 3.
So you're saying Nets in 7?
Nets in 7. Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm absolutely picking the Bucks. It's whether I want to say in 6 or in 7.
Mm-hmm. Picking the Bucks just so you can say you lost to the Eastern Conference champs?
No. No. I think the Bucks honestly showed me a lot in that series with the Heat. And they just made a lot of. Obviously, they made it was a big trade when they got Drew Holiday. It was huge to me, just big, I guess, in regular sports media. But another one that I like a lot, just in terms of mentality, Bobby Portis. He's one of those guys that just does not care. He's going to go at you, and he offers honestly a nice kind of twist if they need to go a little smaller. And take Brook Lopez out the game. They can throw Bobby Portis in at the 4 and kind of have Giannis play the 5 and really still space the floor and have people that are very capable offensively. So I like what they can do there. Bryn Forbes. All I got to say about Bryn Forbes, you better fucking shoot in this series like you did against my goddamn Heat.
It's not happening.
Because I know that the Nets won't play better defense than the Miami Heat. So I know you're going to get some open damn looks. I need to see them. I need to see that same energy. So, no, but I think I'm going to say Bucks in 7. I think look, in the regular season, all of these games were fantastic. I don't think the Bucks ever saw them with all 3. I'm still under the impression that all 3 is actually kind of a detriment for them. I think they're still at best when they only have 2. But I will say this: I think them getting the Celtics in round 1 was the best thing that could have happened to them. It wasn't a real test, but there was still some good talent on the other team, and I think that it really did a lot for that big 3 to be able to come together, get some good chemistry. Feel like they had to fight a little bit, but not really. Like I was like, I don't.
They should have
None of
been.
it,
They should have won every game by 20, 30 points. Like, come on, man. Even when
yeah, like
Jason Tatum scored 50, I should have won that game. Like, that's how they should have been thinking. Like, damn, man, we got to be a little bit better. Like, I can't believe we lost this game.
yeah, yeah, like yeah. I mean, the Celtics. Come on, with no
Yeah,
Jalen
seriously?
Brown, Kemba Walker in and out. Like they should have swept them, but they didn't. But
Everybody gets paid.
right, everybody gets paid. So yeah, I think I was leaning probably more in my head like before the first round if this was the matchup Bucks and 6, but I think that was going to help. I think it's going to help them steal an extra game. This first game is going to be very interesting. If the Bucks steal game 1, it could be a gentleman's sweep. I think.
Ooh. Wow. You got a lot of faith.
No, because I think game 1 is very important psychologically for the Nets.
Okay, yeah.
If the Bucks take game 1
convincingly, they're gonna
start. They might start doubting themselves and start because they got a lot of guys that feel the need to like always prove themselves to people. Like Kevin Durant always has to prove himself to people, right? And like he hasn't gotten the credit that he thinks he should have gotten for what he did in Golden State. Kyrie Irving,
he's not gonna get it here either. It's gonna be so funny.
I think he'll get it.
No way, not happening.
He might not.
But like, say you left a big 3 and started another big 3.
Yeah, but this one was a lot different. Like him just joining Kyrie Irving, like that's not a super team. Like that's a fair fight. And then they traded for James Harden. It's not like the 3 of them like got together and like, all right, yeah, we're gonna go.
Yes, they did. Here. James Harden was out there wearing a fat suit, man. Come on. Well, he wasn't wearing a fat suit, but he was wearing like double hoodies and double sweatpants to look fat.
Bro, at the end of the day, James Harden couldn't control who the Rockets traded him to, though.
That's fair. No, that's fair.
So, like, it wasn't like a Miami like Bosh Wade LeBron get together like.
That's fair. James Harden was like, I just want out of here.
And even if James Harden did that with Brooklyn, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all. I had no problem.
It's not like what Kevin Durant did to go to Golden State, team that won 73 games, lost to in the playoffs, and then joined them. Like that's a completely different circumstance. And I can see why, like his rings are very valid to me. I just think it tells me something about his kind of competitiveness. But
super teams are all throughout the NBA history. So Larry Bird was a super team. Magic's super team. Like, come on.
I just have an issue personally with him joining a team that he lost to in the final. Like,
that's
punk move. And like choked it away.
That's a punk move.
Like if you want to blame Russ more than you want to blame KD, whatever. But they both had between games 5 and 6, they both kind of had one that was their fault. Like Russ screwed up game 5, KD screwed up game 6, and then they both kind of screwed up game 7, in my opinion. But no, like this one's a lot different to me. Like he'll get all the credit that I think he has been looking for if they can do it. But if they steal game 1, doubt will start creeping in.
People will start talking too. Media will start talking.
Well, and Kyrie hasn't really been able to do anything since he left LeBron. Like he had ultimately a failure in Boston. Then you got James Harden. Still looking for his first ring, and he's gotten a lot of blame for it. And is it all fair? It's probably a little excessive, but at the end of the day, like he's supposed to be the guy, and he also just like gave up in Houston. He pretty much said, "I'm not going to be able to do it as the lead guy, so I got to go. I need to go somewhere else." So I just think there's a lot to it psychologically. Whereas if the Bucks go down game 1. It won't be at home. They're playing the new super team. It's not like the Bucks series in the past when they lost to Toronto, when they lost to the Heat last year, where everyone was like, "Oh, wow, you should have beat them, but you didn't." That's not really going to be the conversation this year.
The underdog.
They got and like I said, Drew Holiday and Bobby Portis give them a little bite. Like that's just a little fierceness, a little I don't give a fuckness. to their team, which I always
Oh
love.
yeah, Bobby
Always
Portis
love
has
that.
that written all over his face. like, please cross this line, bruh. Cross the line. Like you can tell.
So, all right. You got Nets in 7. I got Bucks in 7.
Woo.
Hopefully, by the time we get this uploaded, I'll be able to include Devion's picks with it. We look forward to a big Game 7 tomorrow, which we are planning on going live for.
Yes.
Hopefully, Devion will be able to at least join us for the live.
3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central.
3:30 Eastern. We'll hopefully try and get on a little beforehand so we can maybe
12:30 Pacific.
talk about it a little bit. Way to know your time zones, Joe. Yeah, we'll try and get on there maybe a little early so we can give you a little pregame something to it. We're not on Charles, Shaq, and Kenny's level yet, but we're trying to get there. Darn it!
No, my knees are not that knobby. I can run to a screen. I can make it to the screen. I don't know why I decided that I was Kenny though either. I don't know. I don't know how that happened.
Oh god! Because you damn sure Charles. That's definitely who you are.
Nah.
Actually, I can't even say that, Joe. So I should give the update on our picks. So Joe, so far we're waiting on the last one. Joe is 6-1 on his picks. His only miss being the Lakers. I am 4-3, whatever. Devion is 5-2. So
Champ is here.
So Joe has clinched winning round 1. Good job, Joe. I feel a little cheated that my
shouldn't have picked with your heart. Pick with your mind.
Shouldn't have picked with my heart. Then I'd have a chance. But
actually, I would have. Yeah, me too. I would have been 7-0 if I would have. No, I wouldn't have picked the Suns.
I think your head still told you the
Lakers. Yeah, absolutely.
But all right, man. So I look forward to doing live tomorrow with you. 3 impossible. Cut down to 2 today, but it's all good. We'll get at you next week.
Yes, sir.